Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. The truck transporting all the figures to Walmart was the victim of a heist, but is this new Page Punchers really a steal? Welcome to 5 Points of Articulation. Starting with the packaging, and I'm not sure I should open this. Following that Walmart truck heist, this Supergirl's become kind of a hot commodity. If you want to try to find her somewhere other than Walmart though, here's the barcode, and on the back the artwork is actually the comic that she comes with. This is such a clever idea, and one of my favorite things about a Page Punchers. The comic in question is the first issue of Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, which itself is the basis for the upcoming movie starring Millie Alcock. And wouldn't you know it, but there's crypto. I do think the Page Punchers logo should be more prominent to help shoppers. Either way, for packaging, I'm giving this Supergirl 4 points. Moving on to presentation, and Supergirl stands at 6 3/4 inches, or 17 1/4 centimeters, and is mostly reuse of the gold label Target version, which, like many DC Multiverse female figures, is reuse of Nightfall Catwoman. That reuse being the legs, stomach, and arms. You can tell the arms because of the sculpting for the gloves. For me, the rougher part of the gold label is the torso. You've got seams on the upper torso that go nowhere, and a zipper on the lower torso that goes nowhere. That was really the only thing I was hoping that they were going to fix with the new figure, but unfortunately they did not. That said, the new one has a higher belt that does a pretty okay job of hiding it, but I was really hoping they were going to use that updated Huntress torso. One of the bigger gripes people had about the gold label version was that the skirt was really long and it completely covered her legs. This new one does a great job of correcting that. In fact, it looks pretty much just like the comic cover, and between the gold trim and bare legs it does a really good job of breaking up all that red. That said, the knees and ankle balls are a much darker red and really do stand out. One thing that stands out in a great way is this all new head. I know a lot of collectors didn't care for the gold label head, and there were lots of jokes comparing her to the movie White Chicks, but I was personally fine with it. That being said, this new head sculpt has lots of personality. I really like the profile she cuts, and I love all the curls and waves in her hair. Not just the sculpted detail, but also all this wonderful paint. As long as we're back here, another really nice surprise was the yellow S on her cape. I am so happy to see McFarlane doing this more often. On that note, I am very happy with her logo. One thing about the Target version I wasn't crazy about was the gold instead of the yellow, so this makes me much happier. For presentation, I'm giving this Supergirl 4 points. Moving on to Poseability, and Kara has these long, luscious locks. As such, she can't look up, but no trouble looking down. Also not much in the way of tilt, but she can look side to side. Moving on down, Supergirl can raise her arms this high. She also has complete rotation, as well as forward and back with this rotator cuff. Moving on down, and that Catwoman glove line hides the bicep swivel. She's also got double jointed elbows with a perfect bend, and wrist balls that can swivel and hinge either up and down or side to side. Shifting to the torso, and Supergirl has a diaphragm joint and a dumbbell waist, though that belt is hiked up pretty high. Even so, she has a great arch backwards. For those wondering, and here's a flying pose, but of course not much in the way of hunching forward. That high-waisted belt does get in the way of tilt a little bit, but of course we still have twist. Peeking underneath, and there's this wedge to help the skirt keep its shape, but the joints themselves are the standard McFarlane hips. She can only kick this high, but there is a bit of a bell to the skirt, so she can split this wide, which is actually pretty impressive. There is twist to the hip, but it's pretty stiff this time around. Moving on down though, and there's no trouble with the double jointed knee, and the bend is really good. Moving all the way down, and Kara has toticulation and ankle balls that can swivel, hinge, and like Supergirl, going from being a magical construct to Superman's cousin to a pile of goo to an Earth Angel to his cousin again. Pivot. Limited by the hair, skirt, and hunch forward. For Poseability, I'm giving Kara an okay 3 points. Moving on to Playability, and Kara comes with a trading card and a figure stand. Instead of a normal bio, it actually has a synopsis for the Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow story. The good news is you can read that story yourself thanks to this included comic. Stylistically, the story combines high fantasy, science fiction, and superheroes. It also ends on enough of a cliffhanger that I have got to track down the trade paperback. So help me if they hurt one hair on Crypto's head. I'm pretty sure the point of this figure was to get us excited for the upcoming movie, and you know what? Mission accomplished. And hey, notice that sword? Not only does this figure include it, but it's pretty spot on. On that note, Kara comes preloaded with an accessory holding hand and a flight/karate chop hand, but she also has a pair of fists. Lastly, and once again, I have got to comment on the wired soft goods cape. I know some of you prefer plastic, and that is completely fine. line, but this has definitely become my favorite cape option. Of course, playability is more than just cape, swords, and comic books. It's also about how well your figure plays with others. First up, and for Supergirl, whose head I can't swap, and here we have DC Essentials. Well, technically I can, but whenever I do, it always ends up damaging the peg hole on the Essentials, so I don't wanna. But for a grown-up version of Kara, and here we have Power Girl. One character confirmed to be joining Millie Alcock in the Supergirl movie is Lobo. In a similar vein, and for some Superman family villains, here we have Lex Luthor, Injustice 2 Brainiac, Bizarro, which I think is from Rebirth, and Cyborg Superman, who in this continuity is Supergirl's father. For one last foe, and here's the multiverse-shattering Final Crisis Superboy Prime, bringing us to Connor Kent Superboy and the Superman family. Of course, if you prefer your Con-El with a bit more of a classic flair, here you go. And Steel with his droopy hammer. If you're struggling with a droopy hammer, consider Blue Chew. They're the sponsor of today's video. I'm kidding, but admit it, I got you going there for a minute. For one more member of the Super family, and here's John Kent Superman, bringing us to Kara's cousin, Superman himself. This one is from Action Comics 1000. Here's the gold label version with a cloth cape and a painted logo, but for my favorite version of Action Comics 1000, here we have the Atomic Skull 2-pack. This one just has those nice bright Superman colors. For a bulkier option though, and here we have Hush, but for the bulkiest option, and here's the return of Superman, whose blues are the closest match to Kara yet. I swear, it's like the Goldilocks and the Three Bears of Superman figures. On the completely opposite end of the spectrum is DC Classic. I still think this would be a better springboard for Superboy, but for the two I'm sure you're the most curious about, and here we have Christopher Reeve and the all-new Silver Age McFarlane Toys digital version. Of course, for the most important comparison, we've got to bring out Crypto and Streaky, but for a relative scale comparison, here's Kara with Pizza Spidey and the Spectacular Spider-Man, and as always, here she is with Stealth Iron Man. Now, there aren't a lot of options, but I still want to try out some head swaps. First up, and here we have Injustice 2. The skin tones don't match exactly, but they actually come together a lot better than I was expecting. In general, I like the face sculpt and have only really ever had a problem with the hair, so if you wanted to make this combination work and maybe do a hair swap, I think it would actually work pretty nicely. Conversely, this combination highlights the difference in skin tones, but stepping back, it does work better than I was expecting. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of the Injustice 2 costume, but if you like it, this head does look really good on it. Next up is Sasha from The Flash. I'm not sure if this is a custom anyone is looking to make, but with a little work does provide an interesting glimpse into what the character might have looked like in a more comics-accurate costume. This, however, is a combination I was very curious about. It reminds me a lot of Kara's look from Elseworld's Finest, with longer hair, mind you. The wrist pegs are not swappable with the regular Supergirl though, so you will need to do something creative about the skin tones not matching on the hands. And lastly, and most importantly, the gold label Target exclusive. First and foremost, if you like the gold label head, this looks great. You've got the brighter, more classic yellow and red S, and if you like this skirt and belt combo, I think it balances out really well. If, however, your main issue with gold label was the head, this is an improvement. At the very least, I do think I prefer the hair. Personally, I feel like more mixing and matching would be ideal. That, however, is going to have to wait until its own video, because the customizations I want to do are a bit more extensive. In the meantime, for playability, I'm giving Supergirl 5 points. This leaves us with nothing left to discuss but the price. Just like the Kingdom Come version of her cousin Clark, Kara retails for $28. The aftermarket was always going to be an issue with this figure, but that mass theft has driven it up even more. As is though, and for price, I'm giving Supergirl 3 points, averaging out to a final total of 3.8 out of 5. For more Supergirl videos, check out one of these, and until next time, play nice and have fun.